In the headlines, Flo Dominica promises to take legal action against anyone found stealing the company's copper cables. Prime Minister Skerrit says government will not tolerate escalation in gun violence in this country. And the centralization of Court Dominica services in St. Lucia expected to cost some employees their jobs. I am Andrea Louis with the Channel 5 News. Back with the details after this.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fenced pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Thank you for staying with us. First up, it has been a long and challenging road for Flo Dominica as the company continues to invest in its network restoration post-Hurricane Maria.
But there is an illegal practice of copper theft which is making matters worse. When the company's copper is stolen, it not only slows down progress in service restoration, but the action also cheats customers of service already provided by Flo.
Stealing of the copper cable from Flo, especially from the customers in Trafalgar, and it happened about 2 or 3 times in Trafalgar. Also, recently we had the cable stolen in Castaways or Mirror area, which we had to replace again. And of late, we got up this morning where it was stolen again in Trafalgar, Belfast, and also into the Jimmet area. So the person who is doing that stealing of that copper cable is aware what they are doing, and it is putting a number of customers out of service. And I mean, after those customers have suffered from such a mega hurricane of Maria, and they are just getting back their lives together, especially that the school term is coming up once more, and a number of them require the internet services for their children. And for some reason, the individuals believe that they're doing themselves good by stealing the copper cable. It has cost the company quite an amount of money trying to restore the services to the customers. And I mean, I speak for myself because I've been spending, I used to call here my home because I spent from Mondays to Saturdays, 8 to 9 in the evening, restoring customers back to what they were before. And for somebody to just keep stealing the copper cables all the time, I mean, they have no heart, and whoever is buying the cables from the individual should ask themselves a question: are they doing justice to the island? The copper cable, as I said, the customers and them are affected, and sometimes we are unable to source the cable right away because we have to keep putting in cables that were damaged from Hurricane Maria right across the island. Right now we're into Calibishi and parts of Marigot, Portsmouth, and for somebody to be stealing that cable, that means that they're leaving a number of customers out of copper cable, but that we can't restore them right away because we have to keep putting back things that we just replaced. So I believe that the authorities out there and whoever have seen the individuals doing that malicious damage, that they should report it to the police station. And there is no reason that you should find somebody at 3 a.m. in the morning with blinkers on or flashers on with high visibility jerkins on a pole with a ladder. I mean, something is fishy about that, and we have to bring that perpetrator to justice.
Flo has warned that stealing of cable is an offense and anyone found responsible will be prosecuted. The Telecoms Act makes provision for a $15,000 fine and 6 months in jail for interfering with telecom systems. The public is encouraged to report any sightings of cable theft to Flo or the police.
In other top stories, Prime Minister Skerrit has appealed to Dominicans to facilitate the police in carrying out their duties. Addressing a function in Maho on Thursday, Prime Minister Skerrit reflected on the recent spate of deadly shootings in the country.
The police has a responsibility and a duty to maintain law and order. That's their mandate in law. And they have the resources required to do so. But it is important for us as citizens and residents to allow the police to carry out its function given to it by law. You know, the police is doing a check of vehicles, and all of us get upset because we're stuck in traffic. We're vexed because we're stuck in traffic. And so we need to allow the police to carry out its duties. The police is not above the law, so it must carry out its duties within the confines of the Constitution of Dominica. But we must allow it to do its work. And we must send a clear message to people who are involved in drugs. You must cease and desist from engaging yourself in these illegal activities. Because where there's drugs, there will be guns, and where there will be guns, there will be violence and killings.
The Prime Minister believes tackling this ugly problem must be done collectively.
It behoves all of us in Dominica. All of us must play our part in ensuring that we ensure that we have peace and tranquility in our country. And we've made it clear to the police that it must carry out its mandate and to ensure that it can bring a sense of peace of mind to every citizen and resident in Dominica. But I give you the assurance that this government will not allow and tolerate any such activities going on in Dominica. We'll be firm and resolute in ensuring that we wipe out this lawlessness that is permeating our society. But it will require the commitment and the role of every citizen and resident in Dominica.
In related news, leader of the Dominica Freedom Party, Kent Vital, says dealing with the issue of gun-related violence among young men in this country calls for a comprehensive strategy. Recently, we've seen shootings in Newtown, Roseau, Mont Prosper, and just this week, Silver Lake. Prime Minister Skerritt, the Minister for National Security, the leader of the opposition, and the MP for Roseau South, as well as the president of the Dominica Association of Evangelical Churches, have all spoken out on the issue. The Freedom Party leader believes apart from the issue of policing, society needs to show it cares in various ways.
We recognize that certain cultures among our young men are not necessarily the most desirable cultures. We have to directly attack those. These are not necessarily policing strategies, but they are strategies that are necessary. But they come alongside other efforts. They come alongside other efforts to show people that we really care. If you do not show people you really care through providing educational opportunities, opportunities to get into entrepreneurship, opportunities to get decent jobs, if you do not show them you care, then when you come and you try to speak to them about being more gentle, being more caring, it falls on deaf ears. So it has to be a comprehensive strategy. But clearly there are certain cultures among our young men that we have to tackle. We have to tackle it from the schools, we have to tackle it from the communities, we have to tackle it in various ways, and by examples as well. As I said earlier on, some of examples that you see coming from our political electorate, they fuel some of those very attitudes that we're talking about that we see in our young men.
Vital says it is time to collectively address the issue of gun violence among our young men.
I think given what is going on right now, we maybe need a commission. The government maybe needs to bring together a group of reputable and individuals from a cross-section of society to begin to discuss how do we address the difficulties, the crime and the violence that we are facing. But as I said, it has to go beyond just policing. It has to cut across the several areas that we spoke about. But it's something we need to address. And as a Freedom Party, we will be reaching out. We will begin from our next radio program to begin to speak about those issues and to reach out to our society so that we can encourage everyone to play their part in this society.
On to agriculture. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture says several interventions have been taken to help get the sector back on its feet through the importation of plant varieties. Dr. Reginald Thomas says several plants are on their way to Dominica in order to jumpstart the production of fruits here.
We are working to bring in some citrus. We finalizing flight details that we can get it in. The ministry itself has prepared itself. We prepared the areas for the housing it and managing it so that it can go out into the farmers. We are also engaging with an organization willing to give us some breadfruit plants. So we are working on that as well, trying to get that into the country, hopefully next week. We brought in 5 new varieties of coffee through ICA. We have the seeds. We are preparing now so that we can plant these seeds, that we can validate these 5 varieties.
Thomas explained that while the country can provide farmers with local varieties, this would take several months, and the goal is to get produce on the markets in a quick time.
Most of our propagation facilities were impacted, destroyed in some instances. We understand that we need to look at importation as a temporary intervention. We do not want the farmers to be waiting for us, for when our facilities come into play, for them to get plants. So this is why we're doing this temporary intervention. Coffee plant will be, depending on where it is, between 3.5 to 4 years. There are a number of initiatives taking place, and they are interim, because we do not want to be a country dependent necessarily on importation of plants because of the risks that are involved in moving planting material.
On the point of bringing in plants to jumpstart the agriculture sector, Thomas says thousands of bunching banana plants have already been distributed in the Northeast.
We have also brought in some banana plants through a cooperation with Matnick Agency. We brought in 4,400 banana plants. It's called the variety Gal. They actually have plants that are bunching as we speak. They have bunched earlier than the regular, in terms of the normal varieties that we have. So we're doing this validation as well. Most of those plants went into the Northeast, which is the higher production area.
In other developments, 12 emergency shelters are down for repairs by an international organization. That's the word from team leader of the IOM, Jan Wallam-Wigdam. He explained that facilities in the West and the Northeast will benefit from a range of renovation works.
The next programs that we are working on is that we're planning, or that we're preparing the repair or the retrofitting of 12 here it's called emergency shelters. Internationally we call those often collective centers, but the emergency shelters in the Northeast and in the West of the country. It's from quick fixes, from a repair of a few windows up to restoration of large roofs, for instance the Maho Gospel Tabernacle. It's a big operation to get that up to standards. Also, we're going to provide solar power systems in 8 of those centers.
Apart from upgrading the emergency shelters, the IOM will also enhance the skill sets of the shelter managers.
Part of the program is also that we're going to train all the shelter managers in managing those centers, also in first aid training, etc., so that they are really ready for in case the centers are populated. We also going to help the government, and in this case it's going to be the Ministry of Disaster Management, with the policy on emergency shelters. So who's responsible, who's going to maintain them, who's going to train in the future.
Limited to no communication with the outside world was one of the major challenges that plagued Dominica after Hurricane Maria. Wegdam says the IOM is taking steps to tackle that issue for future events.
And we are investing and training on ham radios, so ham radio equipment, and then ham radio operators, because in the lessons learned of Maria was that wasn't very effective and big potential, but could be used more in future emergencies when the internet and the telephone lines are down.
Dominica became part of the International Organization for Migration in November 2017. Coming up on the Channel 5 News, a glance at the creativity of students of the 2018 Adult Education Summer Program.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001 275-5003 today.
Welcome back. Courts employees from the company's technical, cashier and credit departments expected to be affected by restructuring.
The Waterfront and Allied Workers Union, which represents the employees, says 3 technicians will be affected by the restructuring. The WOW has conducted 2 rounds of negotiations with courts management. The union's secretary-treasurer told Channel 5 News on Friday they are awaiting the company's final decision on its proposals.
We do not have a problem with the service department because we believe what they are in fact proposing can work, not to the disadvantage of the workers, but to my mind to their advantage, in that their services will be made redundant. However, they will be engaged on contract with the company, and in that regard the company is prepared to offer them the services of the department where they are working, the tools and the equipment, up to 1 year to get them to be at a level where they in fact could maintain themselves.
6 employees in the credit department are going to be impacted as courts has centralized some of its operations in St. Lucia. WOW is in discussion with courts management on that aspect of things as well.
So we are having some discussions in relation to persons, even from Dominica, that could in fact find positions available in St. Lucia, that they could move there to fill in the positions. And if that is the case, then the question of redundancy would not apply. Because we know that based on settled practice in Dominica, that if you were to close down a department and to resume operation of substantially the same functions, then priority have got to be given to the workers that were made redundant.
Courts management is also considering a submission by the union to immediately pay off and send home staff who will be affected by the restructuring rather than prolong their anguish and uncertainty.
We have also an additional submission that is being considered, because under normal circumstances, when people's services are going to be terminated, they are given notice consistent with their length of service. And that is, if you are 10 years and less and you're monthly paid, then you get 1 month's notice. And if you're more than 10 years, then you get 2 months' notice. But we consider, and more so the shop stewards advised, and I agree with them, that the situation that now exists, the insecurities that exist down at courts, is such that it is impacting negatively on the workers. And we are saying that instead of allowing them to work for 1 month and 2 months, knowing that their services are going to be severed at the end of that period, that they would be severed now and paid the notice. So all of that is in the hands of the management to give us a response and to also indicate to us what is their position in relation to people that would like to move.
A further 33 houses are on the cards to be roofed as the Maho constituency enters phase 2 of its re-roofing project. An initial $2 million were given for roof repairs in the Maho constituency in February to start off this massive project. Project coordinator Anthony Scotland says over 100 houses have been covered under phase 1.
We were able to do over 100 houses with that money. Houses have been done from Warner, Taru, Jimit, Maho, Massac, Campbell, in the corner down here, Despot, I tell you, and Silvina, there's 2 little communities higher up, and in the Canefield area. So we have done tremendously well with this money. We are now going into the second phase, and I have a list of houses there to be built in certain areas of the constituency. I'll just tell you the total. The total number of houses to be built is 33, and it's costing us $1,226,647.
The original estimates showed $8 million being needed for the roofing project in the constituency. However, subsequent data collection has increased this amount by almost $4 million.
You may recall that when we did the first assessment, it came to $8.2 million. And I must say that the Prime Minister approved that money for us. But we decided to proceed by way of a phased process. And that money that we made reference to just now of $2 million was just for the first phase. So very soon we have a list compiled already, and there was a subsequent assessment we did that speaks to $3.1 million because we had left out some homes in Belfast and Canefield. So in aggregate, we're talking about almost $12 million in totality in terms of the monies that we need to actually assist the people of the Mao constituency to replace the roof.
Blackmore is pleased with the reduction of tarpaulin-covered houses in his constituency, but says there is still a lot of work to be done.
We have been able to do an assessment in the constituency to find out as to how many persons who are currently on the tarpaulin. And in my area I am from, we have the 6 persons on the tarpaulin. And in Massac, Campbell, we do not have. The one person with tarpaulin in Campbell has been addressed right now. So I think we're doing well in the circumstances. The biggest concern we have now, because of the housing stock, we have a number of houses in Canefield, and we're going to actually address this matter.
Organizers of the 10-year-old summer school program are impressed with the level of creativity of the participants in this year's program under the Adult Education Division. The 6-week summer program came to an end on Friday with an open house and exhibition placing the participants' accomplishments on display.
In the Roseau area, we had 109 people coming up for the summer programs. We had over 8 programs offering. We had basic sewing and intermediate sewing. We had electrical installation and small appliance repair as one class. We had guitar playing, West Indian cooking, pastry making, cake decorating. We have the East who had traditional head tying. We had the North who had sewing as well and acrylic application. They had electrical installation as well. We had Southeast, they had food prep, orders. That's just to name a few. Traditional hair tying is not something that we do every year, but it's not a new program. So I can say it's fairly new for us. That's something that we have been trying to do, to incorporate programs that we know that are useful for the people, like the sewing, like the tradition. But we are always having sewing programs every year. We have cake decorating every year, and we will see people come in. Even if they did the program before, they felt like they want to learn more, they'll come back and do it again in the next year.
Francisca Joseph is the acting adult education officer.
It went by quickly, and I'm very impressed from all reports that we've given and all comments that we've gotten from persons who visited. People are very, very impressed, and this is one of the best ones that we've had since we started the summer program over 10 years ago. And these are new and very impressive. In spite of what happened after Maria, people still came out and really came out to do. As you can see, the products are really beautiful. So the Adult Education Division is very, very impressed, and we are happy. It makes our heart glad that what we've been doing over the years had borne some fruit. And we are so happy that people are getting the skill and equipping themselves with the requisite skills for their own development and for the country as well.
And Channel 5 News spoke with one of the graduates of this year's summer program. Richardson Carbon, who received instruction in electronics, took us through some of his display.
We have the electrical boards that we set up. We have the main switch, then we have our sockets, and we have different bulb holders for different switch. There are different variations of it. Some of them we have the switching freeways, then we have dimmer lights, and then we have the main switch, temporary main switches, and we have the temporary hot water heater. This one is like defective, but we are using it as an example to show what it looked like.
So how much did you know about electronics before you did the course?
I know a little bit because I did it from high school, but after a while, you know, you get rusty, you don't do it for a while and you start losing it. So it was an opportunity to help build back myself. It was for 6 weeks. It was very informative. It was very hands-on. Our instructor, he would explain it very well, so you could get to understand it, and he worked with you person to person, hand in hand, so you can understand what you're doing, and you know, it was very well.
So you're pleased with your success, with what you have accomplished?
Yes, I'm pleased with it.
Okay. What happens next for you? What do you do with this knowledge now?
Well, right from now, I want to implement it. Keep doing wiring. If people want me to wire the house and I can do it, I'll help it. If they help out, if somebody wants advice in electricals, I can pass on the knowledge that I have that way.
Is this something you would like to make a career out of, or just as a side thing?
I want to make a career out of it. It's very good. I like to get my hands, I like to do things with my hands, so yeah, it's something I think I like to follow up with and do a career.
To end the news, the headlines again. Flo Dominica promises to take legal action against anyone found stealing the company's copper cables. Prime Minister Skerrit says government will not tolerate escalation in gun violence in this country. And the centralization of Courts Dominica services in St. Lucia expected to cost some employees their jobs. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Andrea Louis, and to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend.